All right, everybody's received an invitation. It's a structured interview by neutral moderators. No debate between the candidates is permitted. This is not a town hall. Questions have been sought and asked by many people in Coconut Grove, in District 2, and throughout Miami, and those have been assembled online and brought into questions that we're bringing with us today.
So we'll start with the introductions in the order in which you're seated. That order was generated randomly. I know some people in the corner are not quite in the best sight lines. Remember, 90 seconds each. Would you please begin?
Hello, everyone. My name is June Savage. I'm 55 years old. I was born here at Mercy Hospital. I was raised in the city of Miami. I have one son. He's a lawyer in downtown. And I myself we have 5 children. And my father and my mother both went to Miami High. I myself have been working for many years behind the curtain, what I like to say, in regards to public safety with FDOT, doing bicycle advocacy rides for the Lotus House Women's Shelter, helping Mark Sarnoff keep one of the bars closed that played beer pong so the moms and dads and the bicycle advocacy committee could have those people ride their bikes and run early morning without worrying about drunks on our roads. Every year I call the police and I make sure we have DUI checkpoints at the entrance of Key Biscayne. So I do all of these things in the background, and when I saw what was going on with our city, I decided to step in front of the curtain. This is not my first rodeo. I ran against Dan Gelber in Miami Beach when Michael Grieco got thrown out, and I did a grassroots campaign against a bunch of gentlemen, and I came in second place. So I love our city. I'm passionate about our city. I have ideas for our environment, for our police, and safety. And not only that, for protection of your property values, because that's something that I do. I've been a licensed realtor for 22 years. I also have international business experience. Thank you.
Good evening, are we on? Yeah, so good evening, everyone. My name is Martin Zilber. Pleasure to see everyone. Thank you for attending tonight. Born and raised Miami-Dade County, lived in Coconut Grove now for over 30 years. I had the pleasure of raising my 2 children, Michael and Lee, here in Coconut Grove. My wife and I, Cindy, have been married for over 30 years. I'm here today for the reasons that I'm always here, and that's for this community and for public service. I've been lucky to have been able to be honored to serve you in many different capacities as a resident of this county and of Coconut Grove for a long time. I was past chair and elected as a village council to Coconut Grove back about 15 years ago. I served as a public trustee or board member of Jackson Hospital for a long time. I was a twice elected circuit court judge here in Miami-Dade County, where I had to serve on was privileged to serve on 3 different divisions. I was a criminal court judge, civil judge, and family court dependency judge. So I've had the privilege to be able to touch and affect a lot of people's lives in a lot of ways. I love this community. My son got married about 6 months ago, both attorneys, so too many attorneys in the family. But I'm hoping my grandchildren will grow up and be a part of this community, and quality of life issues are why I'm here, and it's what's so important to me. Safety, of course. Policing is important to have out there so we're safe. Our parks, our quality of life, housing issues and traffic issues where I have a background. So I hope that I'll be able to continue to serve you in the new capacity as a District 2 Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Max Martinez, and I was born on Tiger Tail Avenue, schooled at St. Stephen's and Ransom, and I used Peacock Park to train to beat Michael Vick's combine record and play football at Cornell University. I do not believe in entitlement, and once I heard about the appointment, I realized I had to step up and do what I did in 2021, which was stand up to Francis Suarez and everything that's going on in the city, coming runner-up on a single-digit dollar vote count, and doing all that I can to protect this city for 11 miles down the coast. That's what this job is. It's someone who knows about topography. It's someone who knows about infrastructure. It's someone who knows about coordinating a city, and that District 2 is the epitome of not only the affordability crisis, the housing crisis, the climate gentrification crisis. We're also seeing the opposite effects of that now. We need to find a way to balance all of this for the future so that the rest of the generations of Miami can use it. And the way we do that is by changing the faces in City Hall. We need new people with new ideas who aren't going to deal with the BS. I'm ready to go, and I hope that all of you vote for me on February 27th, maxformia.com. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sabina Cobo. I've been a resident of this district for 22 years. I lived in Brickell. I lived in Edgewater when Edgewater had no name. And I ended up here in Coconut Grove. 10 years ago, I've been raising my 3 children in this district. I worked as an investigative news reporter for 20 years, exposing corruption. It's all on record. You can see my news packages. You can read me in the Miami Herald, where I was a columnist for 20 years. This position came up, and I felt that it was the right time for me to serve for our community, because we need transparent faces. My 3 children don't want to move out from Miami. They want to stay here in the district because this is their identity. They want to conserve the history that we have. They want to be able to say that they're Miamians, and they want to welcome to be an inclusive city, but at the same time, they want to make sure that they have the quality of life that we deserve. The reason that why I'm running is for my children and for your children and your grandchildren. I think that we all deserve to make sure to say that we love Miami in a transparent way. I don't like the way that our city is moving forward, and I would do my best to be your voice in the City of Miami Commission.
Thank you. Hi there. My name is Javier Gonzalez. I want to thank you all for coming out. I know that's a lot of time. One of the questions that was asked, and I'm going to start with this way, is about character, how someone develops their character. And I'm going to tell you a story that I've only told twice, and I'm sorry, a little emotional about it, because I told it at my mother's eulogy, and I told it to Apostle Chambers. When I was a little kid, we were trying to assimilate into what U.S. was, what Miami was, and I begged my mom to throw a little Easter egg hunt, because we were Cuban and we were trying to assimilate. And my mom, we were one of the poorest families on the street, and my mom said, yes, we'll do it. And we set up the Easter egg hunt, and we had one special egg that got you a little boat. I found that egg, and I looked at my mom, and my mom said, it's not yours. And I found one of the kids that was on this in the game, and I gave him the egg so that he could share. And again, that is what develops character. That's what develops values. Those are the values and the character that I will bring to District 2 as your commissioner. And that is what's important. This city is, I love the city. I'm passionate about the city. I am not a rah-rah out there guy. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And again, I want your support. I thank you for your support. My name is Javier Gonzalez. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christy Tasker. I've lived in the Rhodes area for almost 5 years, and we are being overrun by government gangsters. And I am here to stop it. I will stop the corruption. I know what the corruption is. I've been on NBC. I have investigated this myself. I live directly across the street from a construction project called UNA by Oko Group. Oko means I in Russian. And directly next door to that particular project lives Xavier Suarez, our mayor's father and a past commissioner. He does absolutely nothing about it while his own building has been hit, all while buildings next door have been fined while their amenities have been shut down because the construction project hit it. They breach absolutely everything, and they're doing this all over Miami, all while they're ignoring infrastructure in the building permits. They're giving COs without making sure that that infrastructure is fulfilled when they could be holding a permit until it's all done. It's very simple to fix, and it's going to take somebody with no political connections to the government gangsters, and I'm your girl.
Hello everyone, I'm Leo Chalabi. I moved here in 2014 from Israel. I was born there. I served in the military in Israel, like all the Israelis. I moved here 8.5 years ago. I started from scratch. I had to build myself again, my citizenship, my green card, 2 businesses, non-profit, everything myself with no lawyer, no nothing. Now I'm running for commissioner here. In Israel, I worked few years in the parliament. I opened the gay lobby against homophobia, made it political power. Today, after 10 years, I worked in fashion, opened at H&M in Israel the first time, the first store. So I have experience in management, in politics. I'm also marketing director. I'm doing marketing. So it's all about innovation in Miami, prosperity, job growth, safety, and transparency in politics. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lorenzo Palomares. I am a Miami resident all throughout my entire life. I'm the product of Maurice Ferre upbringing. My 3 kids were born at Mercy Hospital. I live here on Bayshore Drive. I am an attorney by trade. Been an attorney over 24 years. I've practiced in 34 jurisdictions of the United States. I'm an international attorney, and I've also been, before being an attorney, with my father, produced the largest construction company in Miami, which we sold in Wall Street, and I went to law school in California. Why am I running? I'm your solution candidate. I don't owe anything to the people that are in that board that are now taking your money. We, as a district, and I will redistrict this thing before it's over, we produce 70% of the tax dollars of the city. And we should have more representation. And I promise you that if you elect me, on the very first commission meeting, I will file 4 motions to reduce the overcrowding in the housing. I have a plan to reduce housing costs for over 25%, and I will stop the water rising in Brickell. Thank you.
So good evening. My name is Eddie Leal, and I wanted to share 2 stories with you. As I introduce myself, I know a lot of people in the audience, and it's always a pleasure to see you guys, and thank you for being here. How is it that I got to the city? 4 or 5 years ago, I became the president of my condo association, and I was invited to attend a rezoning that was occurring. At that meeting, there was a discussion that essentially this was a down conclusion and that we had no choice. I went up to City Hall, I fought at City Hall, I defended my neighbors, I defended myself in that process. And during that process, I earned the opportunity to be part of the city. And for the last 4 years, I have been working at the city, passing legislation, like the Woodvine legislation regarding intervention for historic preservation. I know the system. So after knocking to so many doors and getting to hear you and what you need, I have the skill set that we need in order to start the ground immediately. What do I mean by that? I direct myself with all the directors, all the departments, and I have the communication on an ongoing basis with them. We need someone that can hit the ground running. That's me. If you give me the chance, District 2 will be a different and beautiful place. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Goggins. I go by Mike. My name on the ballot will be easy to find. I'm probably the only Irishman listed. So I spent most of my working years in the private sector with increasing responsibilities. General Motors Corporation, I was a district manager. I handled the Southeast region, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. I've been a cost analyst. I've been the CEO and president of a publicly traded high-tech corporation. We had operations in North America, Europe, South Africa, Asia, South America, and Australia. So I've done a bit of traveling. All those positions have enabled me to develop a strong character for integrity, responsibility, and most importantly, accountability. That's something I don't think you see too much in the public domain with our elected officials. One important aspect that I do believe I can bring to the city is problem solving. As you may know, the best way to solve a problem is to take ownership. If you don't take ownership, nothing moves forward. And I see too much of that at the local level, the state level, even the national level. I'm not a politician. I never have been. I'm not supported by any special interest or lobbyist. I've attended numerous fundraising dinners for all sorts of politicians, and I can tell you this. When anyone gives a lot of money to a campaign, believe me, they want something for their money back. So, thank you again. My name is Michael Goggins. I appreciate the chance to be here.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm proud to be here with all this fine talent. I feel honored. I want to let you know that I have grown up in the Brickell area. I live at 1408 Brickell Bay Drive for the last 30 years. I went to FIU. I have a degree in hospitality management. I've worked with people in the industry of banking, and for the last few years I've been working for the City of Miami as an outreach specialist. That means that I'm the kind of person that would help engage the homeless and bring them into the shelter and then look after their care in terms of getting in the hands of social workers and finding affordable housing. And I'm inspired to run as commissioner for District 2 to listen to everybody's issues. I believe that I learn by listening to you. I would make my cell phone available to you. You could call me 24/7 and tell me so that I can understand and open communication with you. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I have common sense. But my main thrust would be to help the homeless, to try and help them in a better way, because from my experience, I've seen that we've dropped the ball. They're doing a okay job, but I think with my input, we could really do a lot more for them. And I would also think that it's a good idea to build a tunnel into downtown. Some people said it was a good idea. That would alleviate a lot of the traffic. Can it be done? Can we do it together? Can we see the homeless turn around and be reintegrated into the community and pay taxes? Thank you. I'm sorry, I should have said my name. My name's Mario Vuksanovic. Thanks again.
Hi, I'm Kathy Park Suarez. I'm not a public speaker. I've put in a lot of hours in the Grove and all over the city of Miami. I've been helping people find new places to live. The condemnations, we have had people getting evicted with condemnation evictions for not because they didn't pay their rent, but because their building was condemned. Try getting a place to live, especially if you're a person of color. We have moved people out of here all the way up to deep into Liberty City, into the county. I've worked to help people find housing. We have an infrastructure issue, there is no doubt about that. We need to do something about the corruption and the grifting. There's so many people that want this position, but who are they and where have they been? There's only a few of us that have really put in any time and are recognizable at City Hall. And I think we really need to look around and figure out who those people are and why they're here. I signed up to do this only because I couldn't understand where some of these people came from. I understand Miami is important, and I understand that this is a very popular place, but by the same token, why and who? And I think it should be me, at least till November 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Torres, and I'm running for District 2. I'm happy to be here, and first and foremost, thank you for the Coconut Grove Women's Club for having us here. I think that's very important. There's a lot of competition here, and I can talk about my resume, but I'm not going to. I'm going to talk about the accomplishments that I have done in this district for the last 2 years. Everyone knows me as the president of the Downtown Neighbors Alliance. That's great. People go, what is that? Well, let me tell you what that is. That's about community. I've been able to bridge the gap between the city, the county, and the state on initiatives. It's not been about downtown. It's about this city. Every objective and everything that we bring in front of the commissioners is not thinking about downtown, it's about thinking about our district. And I want you to let that soak in. I have been able to do these things. One of the things that we've done is the noise ordinance on city-owned property. We were able to work with the commissioners to find an exemption so that way the residents can enjoy themselves in a quality of life setting. I've been able to reach out to several of the commissioners, especially on the parks that everyone likes to go to. In downtown, as you know, there's not a front yard. The parks are our front yards. So I've been able to bridge the gap on that. And I will stand here firmly and tell you, I am not the puppet of any commissioner or any city official. I am independent of what needs to be done in this district. I will roll my sleeves up day in and day out to make it happen for the district. I kindly ask you to vote jamestorres.com. Thank you.
Would you hold on to that? Sure. Thank you, James. Thank you to all the candidates, and especially for keeping it timely. We have a incredibly classy M&M jar here to ensure that we have random question generators and random answers. So this first question is going to go to Mr. Gonzalez. That's all right. There you go. So again, these questions came in from online members of the community, and I won't embellish them too much, but it won't be a surprise to many of you that the first question is about what many of you mentioned, which is the perception of corruption. Yes, of course, I'm sorry. And get away from the speaker, too. The question is, some Miami citizens believe that Miami's politicians are unduly influenced by financial relationships with developers and businesses seeking unfair advantage in legislative or administrative matters. The word corrupt is often used to describe their beliefs. What are your views on the subject? What pledges would you make on this? How would you be held accountable? Would you pursue broader changes to improve elections and candidate development? And what obstacles would you face? And I'm sorry to interrupt you for 1 second, but remember, for all of you, this is a 2-minute session. The first yellow flag is 15-second warning. And again, it's one question, one answer for everyone, and then there'll be a chance when we finish up to go to...
Could you read the first part of,
yes,
first
sir.
part of the question?
Yeah, it's essentially what a lot of people talked about. Hey, what about the corruption in Miami? But the real question was, are Miami politicians unduly influenced by financial relationships with developers and businesses seeking unfair advantage? And then how would you address that?
That's a very interesting topic for the reason that if you are a candidate that is campaigning for the next step, if you're going to that next level, then you are at the mercy of money that is going to be coming into your election. And that's really what we see as, or what we recognize as citizens as, the corruption. And that's really the truth of it. This is not my next step. I have no next steps. And I think what you do is you bring an integrity, and what I mentioned earlier in my opening, a value, a character, something that tells everybody, hey, this guy is not going to play. And then you have also the experience of the topic. So the experience of the topic, and one of the other candidates mentioned hitting the ground running. We can hit the ground running simply because of the experience, because we've been involved with City Hall, because we've been out there fighting for issues that affected Coconut Grove for the last 15, 20 years. And I think that's really the important critical aspect, is that you get in there and you are running the show in a way that we're a donor district. As another candidate mentioned, we do give 70%, we create 70% of the general fund taxes. So that's a reality. But the reality of it is, too, is that there's legislation in place where it's very difficult to break those budgets down. But again, I think at the end of the day, it's who you elect, how you elect someone. It is on what we have done, what we have accomplished with the folks that are here. And I think that's really one of the issues. And then how you fight it. Listen, one of the things that we just went through with redistricting, you have a voice now in 3 districts, Coconut Grove does. You have a voice in 3, a voice in 4, and a voice in 2. Really use that, because that is something that is in your control. So again, integrity, values, character, those to me are the important issues. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Billy Corbin, or Denny Corbin, as Mel would call me, or Little Billy Cohen, as Joe Carollo would call me. So I'm going to ask a question, and then we'll decide who is going to I thought those are the rules. But District 2 is home to 3 landmark gems in the city of Miami, well, at least. But 3 in particular, the Coconut Grove Playhouse, the Olympia Theater, and the Miami Marine Stadium, that have been allowed to completely deteriorate with little to no action, in the case of some, over decades. In addition to that, there's roadway safety improvements, there's the parking and transit corridor developments, and various projects that involve the cooperation and integration of the county along with the city. So the question for whoever we poll here will be, what do you plan, or how do you plan to liaise with the county to finally get some of these things done? And it's for Max Martinez.
I think the most important thing that needs to happen is the city needs to work more in conjunction with the county to get these things done. For example, the half penny tax, that's how we buy our trolleys. Well, just a few months ago, there was almost 20 million in unused funds, unused surplus taxes. Unused? Do you see what a transportation issue we have here? Like, where is that money going? And that type of transparency and where you're applying it is what kind of government you are. And with the infrastructure that you see now, you see what kind of government you have. You have all your roads flooding, you have all this traffic, you have a bridge that goes up in the middle of the day 20 times and just splits the city in half. And it has never ever once gotten better, because the same last names, the same people, the same ideas, the same solutions, no one ever implements it, and no one ever stands up to these people. And
yes, but Max, but the county, how will you work with the county to get some of these things done that the city cannot do autonomously?
No, of course, but that part of that is being transparent about funds. Part of that is being transparent about funds, and if we have $10 million in surplus transit funds, where are they going? Where are they going? We need to tell our commissioners in Dade County that we're going to be trying to work on this project and try to get this done. We actually need to do it. Is that a good enough answer for you?
I'll take it.
Okay.
We don't know who that's going to yet, so hang on for just 1 second if you would. So the next question will be really about, again, accountability to the residents. Some Miami citizens believe the city commissions act to undermine their accountability to the residents. They cite changes in district boundaries, as we've discussed, changes in citizen review boards, advisory panels and public trusts, and public abuse of citizens at commission meetings. The person who will address this question will be Mr. Alabi. Would you take a stab at that first?
So from what I understand, it's almost similar to the first question about corruption and how you're accountable. So I think first is about your character as politician, is how much you are reliable, how much you are authentic, how much you are listen to the residents and involving them in the decision making. This is one. The second is how much is your history and how much is you accountable for the political process. It's are you really listen to the people that being elected? Are you involving with groups? Are you involving with organizations? Are you listen to all those residents and check what their opinion is and accountable for that?
Let me push on you for a second, because I think what you just described is probably what most of the voters think is happening already, and what most people sitting as a commissioner think they're doing too. And yet, we have in the Grove a number of instances of things where the voters, probably the majority of voters, thought something should happen and yet it didn't. So I think there's probably something a little bit more in the machinations of the government than just the politicians saying, hey, look, I'm going to listen to you. How do you then drive that really forward to make certain that what your constituents want is what will really happen?
The way I see it, it's also an issue with the system. There is not enough involvement of the resident. Also, politicians here are being elected by really few votes. So this is part of the reason, because if they are responsible for only 1,000 or 2,000 people being elected, so they will not try also to represent 60,000 people. So I think it's also depend of how much people are involving in the elections themselves, also how much they involve in the city. The way I see it here in the last 8 years that I'm here, since I moved here, the residents are not really involved in the city, plus also the commissioners are not involved with the residents themselves.
The city of Miami is the city of the future, and it always will be. Over the last several years, Miami has exploded. People from all over the world have been coming here, and at exactly the same time, the city of Miami government has been experiencing a brain drain. Morale and disaffection has led to the abandonment, the resignation, the firing of dozens of people. Professionals, directors, we've gone through, I think, 3 chief resiliency officers in a matter of just 2 years, the last of which was recruited after a national search and quit after about 2 months here in the city of Miami. My question is, what is it that you can do to create an environment in which people will want to stay and work here at the city of Miami, and we can have professionals and provide efficient and effective services here in the city? Because clearly the residents have been suffering as a result of the institutional memory and the professionals in government that we have lost over the last several years. That question is for Christy Tasker.
Perfect, Billy, not Danny. First of all, I would definitely, in my regular career, in a normal non-politician way, which, by the way, this is the first time I've ever run for office, I would definitely make sure that I treat the city as a business, because it is. It is a business, and you are the board seat holders. We are here to represent you. I will be holding town hall meetings so that you can have a voice. That voice will be carried to City Hall while you work. I will follow up with you afterwards. We will stop the corruption. We will stop whatever these gangster politicians are doing. They're utilizing the police force for their own protection. We have city officials that are taking multiple police officers with them on out-of-town trips as if they are their private security. Everything starts from the top down.
Christy, this is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. I love it, you're singing my song. But the question is, in terms of, like you said, treating it like a business, being a manager, we're talking about talent retention.
Yes.
How do you keep these employees here working for the city?
Everything starts from the top down. First of all, I would clear off some of the top, because those people are the ones that are in charge of the rest of the group. So whenever you've got people who are not paying attention, they're not showing up. We have a mayor that doesn't show up, mayor that's probably not been to see his garbage people in I don't know how long. He's probably not ridden on a fire truck in I don't know how long. And I have not seen him at events that he is supposed to go to. That is the leader of the city. So anytime we have a leader that is not showing up for the people, they're also not showing up for their employees.
So the next question, everyone, or those of you who have not spoken yet, is about economic development. And I'll put it in this sense of the Grove for a second, because in the end, the Grove is really 4 neighborhoods, right? And there's 4 different distinct identities here. But the question is, in the context of economic development and community development agencies, how do you see them playing out and actually implementing what it is that the people in those individual neighborhoods, maybe not the Grove overall, would like to do? So formally question is, balancing economic growth with the needs of current neighborhoods is a challenge often addressed by community development agencies. Such bodies can attract misuse and abuse. What actions would you take to achieve the neighborhood's economic development goals while establishing confidence in the organizations that implement them? And this is for Ms. Covo.
Can you please read the second part of the question, because you
Yes.
were really fast.
I'm so sorry. And then we sprung it on you, so that was the best part. So what actions would you take to achieve the neighborhood's economic development goals while establishing confidence in the organizations that implement them? Specifically about community development agencies.
Community development agencies have been key in some instances to represent our community, because it's a form of actually monitoring what is being used at the government. Miami is a city that is overdeveloped. As Billy said when he asked his previous question, Miami is the city of the future. But Miami cannot be the city of the future if the planning for the city doesn't give back to the community. For the people like you that came recently, you were expecting probably much more. And I'm sure you were. Because we cannot continue to not preserve what we have here. And we cannot continue to not be able to actually retain our workforce. What is going on inside of the city is not about blaming others, and it's not about talking and naming people. It's about being able to get to work. And we can get to work within our government if we actually are able to see what's going on within the city. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. How can we understand that we have a park like David Kennedy Park that has holes and that 300 families cannot actually play soccer for 3 weeks because we have festivals? I am pro-development, I am a small business owner, but what I don't agree is that we don't have affordable housing. Affordable housing should be a right. The United States of America cannot even think that we don't have a right to have affordable housing, and that's what's going on here in the city of Miami. One more thing that I want to name that I think is extremely relevant. Our families are suffering, and this is just not about, our district is the most affluent district in the city, of course, but we do have a lot of poverty. Do we want to become what was described in the previous question, a city where we are just going through a lot of back and forth? What we're seeing in City Hall has been a show. It has been a TV show for the past years. And I don't think it's the type of city that we all expect to have.
Can we put that into the context of the Grove for just a little moment? We do have different neighborhoods. As you say, there's different economic prospects, both for home buying and jobs and so on. Do you have any ideas for maybe micro-targeting a little bit more and not treating all of D2 as this wonderful, wealthy expanse, but saying, here's some specific ideas that I've got for the areas of District 2 that are not in the same economic strata, for better or for worse, and maybe that's not where they want them to be. But how do we help that small part of the Grove and D2 get farther along?
A lot of our budget goes to contractors and studies, and they pile up. Many of the studies get piled up to the point that they don't get executed. Why don't we, I'm not a person that I'm an expert in affordable housing, but why don't we hire contractors that actually know what they're doing so we can make things done? Why don't we use our budget accordingly? For example, if we know that there's an affordable, sorry.
Legislation like the Neighborhood Conservation District, Miami 21 zoning policies were intended to balance and protect neighborhoods. That was a joke. Yeah, that was the punchline there. Yet all we've seen for decades is corruption, dysfunction, and nonstop construction. And it seems in an unfettered way, without a master plan, without urban planning, without urban division, any kind of urban vision. It's been said by urban planners that downtown Miami, and particularly Brickell, are one of the greatest urban planning tragedies and missed opportunities in the world. We started with a blank canvas a mere 20, 25 years ago, and there is no parks, no quality of life, no transportation, no bicycle lanes, no schools, no infrastructure, no nothing. So, how have these policies in the city failed us, and why have they failed us, and what can we do to see that they are faithfully executed and enforced? And that question is for June Savage.
Thank you. Okay, this is right up my alley because I'm a cyclist. So I've seen firsthand the potholes that I have to drive around on my bicycle. I don't know if any of you seen me riding around or some of those large groups, but I've ridden from this end of the district to the other. So part of my history, I've worked with FDOT before on the Bicycle Advocacy Committee, and it's always 5 of us. Recently, Mel had a meeting over at Carrollton where I went in and I scribbled all over the boards because most of those people are not cyclists and they're not boots on the ground. So when I helped FDOT with the new entrance on Key Biscayne, I made them get out of their cars. Of course, they made fun of the spandex that we were all wearing, but these are the type of things that I take seriously when it comes to infrastructure and transportation. Tell me?
Perhaps it was a lack of clarity on my part, but this is not just about infrastructure, it's more particularly about development and zoning.
Okay, development and zoning. Okay. All right, well, I'm a real estate agent, and so I've dealt with contractors, developers, and I can tell you that I will make sure that our city employees get out of their cars and they walk these sites where we have issues with development and infrastructure. I have seen that we have pumps on Brickell, diesel pumps that have been there for many years. Wait, are you going to ask me another question?
Well, no, is that the failure? What is the failure? That they
The
have
failure
not been getting out of
is
their cars?
no. The failure is we have people in City Hall who are not boots on the ground. I'm a boots on the ground person, and I make people go out and walk these streets. And we have to understand where the sunlight we're losing because of the development that's going up. So I'm all for proper development, but not on a massive scale, because we need to keep our groove in Coconut Grove, our trees in Coconut Grove, throughout District 2, even down to Morningside, which is very beautiful. I was there the other day. But this is something that is continually worked on, because we really can't stop growth, but we can do it responsibly. Thank you.
So, don't know yet.
Okay.
Not surprisingly, this next question is a continuation of the same general topic. It's not quite zoning. It's a little bit more about maybe reversing development, overdevelopment, and focusing more on getting away from the dense urban environments, focusing more on neighborhood preservation, focusing on the impact of sea level rise, stormwater management. So maybe stay away if that's all right. I know you wanted that question, sorry. In your closing remarks, for the next speaker, who will be, excuse me, Ms. Parks, would you please speak a little bit as well, maybe less on the zoning side, a little bit more on what other interests should there be that would pull back from the pace of development, especially in D2 now. So again, preservation and so on.
Sea level rise.
Sorry?
And you said sea level rise in the beginning?
Yes, I did say that, yes.
I got to sit down for this. Okay, so sea level rise is very important. I used to think it was not a big deal. It's a big deal. Dorian, I spent a lot of time in the Bahamas after Dorian. I've spent a lot of time in Naples, in Fort Myers, and Cape Coral after Ian. If anybody thinks that we're not in danger here in Miami, they're out of their mind. I live at elevation 15, and I'm very concerned, even at elevation 15. The water came in 2 miles in Ian, and some of the most unsuspecting places had water all the way up to the 2nd floor. People were swimming out. We have septic tanks in all of Coconut Grove except for most of West Grove and a little bit of North Grove. We're all going to die of doo-doo poisoning. It's scary. I mean, there is really a need to do something about the septic systems. People in the community don't know to pump out their septic tanks. It doesn't come, when you buy your house, the realtors don't tell you that you need to pump out your septic tanks. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's just there's some life things that we just don't know. It's like applying for homestead exemption. These are all learning things. But we really have a problem coming forward, and we're not doing anything about it. It's overlooked, and we have boards on top of boards on top of boards of volunteer people selected by commissioners and mayors and whatnots. They're not addressing these issues, and it's really becoming a huge factor. And after the tower crash and Surfside, we've got buildings all over that I'm not sure what's going to happen if they start flooding. We really have to concentrate on where we're going and what we're going to do about these things. Thank you.
In the submitted questions, the word accountability came up repeatedly. Accountability in Miami. It's another one of those punchlines. The city of Miami's budget is about $2.5 billion with a B. Yet the city does not have a financial oversight board or an inspector general. The city's audit committee does not post audits of city functions. What, if anything, will you do to take direct action to ensure accountability, transparency, to ensure that the taxpayers' money is being responsibly spent and accounted for? That question is for Eddie Leal.
Thank you, Billy. So accountability. It starts first with those who have attended our public input timelines. What do I mean by that? Before the final budget gets issued, there's an opportunity for you to attend what they describe workshops. We need to start by having more of those so we can hear more from where we want to spend more of our energy in terms of, do we want to have, your description of the budget is accurate, more than 50% of it goes to police and fire. But look, our current status of our fire stations. They need significant infrastructure improvements. Look at our headquarters of the police department. Also needs to require significant improvement. So we need to dedicate the time and resources by not necessarily, it's an important factor to keep the millage that was described earlier, which is what we get paid or what we get taxed on our property taxes. But in order for us to get better benefits, more services, we need to find the right balance.
So that's on the front end. More community input is very helpful when designing the budget, no doubt. But what about accountability on the back end? Who's to say that once that budget is written, that money is going to be spent the way it's been committed?
So one of the things that I have seen, and I would initiate legislation, is making sure that when there is a budget item that gets passed, any line item that gets modified, we will have an opportunity as a commission to make sure that you're not changing ranks, employees, so the budget that we're passing is the one that we're actually getting as residents. And that's an important check and balance with the administration. So, for example, if you pass X on employees for the police or fire or whatever budget item, public works, OCI, any other items, you would essentially ensure that that money is being allocated for that position. Thank you.
So here in the Grove, we've been maybe the last of 10 neighborhoods that have been politically divvied up. And we've also, as a Grove, not necessarily been as inclusive as we could or should be among those 4 little neighborhoods. Some of us are more different than others and more separated than others. So the question here is, what would you do in terms of pursuing structural changes in Miami's governance to reunite Miami neighborhoods? Not just the Grove, not just D2, but across everywhere, to bring those districts maybe back together into a more cohesive unit. And that question is for, Mr. Torres.
Thank you. I think that's a great question for me. I would take this approach on that. Everyone talks about one Grove. It is the one Grove, I understand that, without borders. What I have been able to do in downtown, because a lot of these questions are skated towards the Grove, but let's kind of redirect a little bit here. When I took over the DNA and no one realized that there was a population in downtown, we started doing a lot of community events to get engagement, to receive input, to see what the community really wanted in terms of championing what a neighborhood is. I'm originally from the Chicago area. In those areas, there's a bunch of neighborhoods, Little Italy, the Greek towns, and things of that. You have to preserve your culture. That's very important. You have to preserve what you're about, where you came from, if it's the West Grove, the Little Bahamian section of the Grove. But we can't also forget that this is a community without borders, from the north all the way down to the south. It's very important that you preserve and engage. When I'm in that office, we will engage that way. We don't have net offices. That was taken away part of the budget scenario, right? I intend to have these town hall meetings on a regular basis to see what the community wants. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who voted me in. And they need to have a say, because everyone's on this corruption thing and the tie-ins, right? Again, you have to look at community engagement. Because if you don't have that, you're gonna have what you had 8 years ago. Nothing. You're not gonna have a voice. Or you're gonna have a select voice where it's only gonna be concentrated in certain pockets of neighborhoods. Ask yourself this, is that fair to you? And it shouldn't be. These things need to be stretched out through the entire district to making sure you have the community engagement for everybody. I hope that answers part of your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miami is the least affordable city in the entire country. It is the inflation hotspot overtaking Phoenix for the entire country as of December. It was recently reported by the FIU Metropolitan Center that you would need to earn $125,000 a year in order to afford the average rent of over $3,000 on a 2-2 in the city of Miami. The question is, and the average, the median household income is $47,000, I should add, in the city of Miami. Perhaps this is less concerning for District 2, but I think it's concerning for the entire community. The question is, what, if anything, can we do about affordable and workforce housing to ensure that there are people who can live in the city and serve this community? That is for Martin Zilber.
Thank you, Billy. So affordable housing is something that we desperately need and is very important. It's also something that we have, and many of the questions that were asked tonight was about development. It was about corruption. It was about the city. Well, everything comes together, and the direct question to what do we do about affordable housing? Development is not bad. It has to be good development. And what is good development? Well, good development includes affordable housing. It includes workforce housing. So when we have the richness of a district like this, or somewhere like Brickell, which we talked about with their development, is we need to make sure we get back from the developers that are doing the nice projects and the high-end projects in Miami to make sure that we have extra room and money for affordable housing and for workforce housing. That's how we increase the affordable housing. That we make sure that with every project we do, we never forget about affordable and workforce housing. There's great examples of that. Right in West Grove at the Gibson Center is a great project of affordable housing. So we have had the ability to have good projects. We just need to do more. We need to make sure that everybody has a quality of life.
But it feels like too little, too late. I guess it's never too late until the floods come. But what has been the failure of the policy thus far? Has the commission in the city just not ensured that every project comes with that workforce and affordable housing component?
Well, that's part of the failure. The question was, what would we do? So now you've asked me the second question, so I'll answer that now. More time for this. No, it's fine. For the second part of the question, and yes, there has been a failure. I think there's been a failure. I do not think that we have provided enough affordable and workforce housing in the city of Miami. And part of what makes our city great, yes, is part of the development, part of our park spaces, part of our quality of life with our infrastructure. But what needs to be included, and there's a lot more that I can speak to, but what I was asked about specifically was affordable housing. And I'll say it again, what needs to be included in all of our master plans, in all of our development, is money for affordable and workforce housing. We have plenty of room for development, and we must and we will include an element for workforce and affordable housing. My time is up, so thank you.
So there's three of you who have not answered a question yet. This is the lucky day for one of you because this is the ultimate layup question for Coconut Grove. Should we talk about trees? And of course, none of you know who this is for yet, but needless to say, here in the Grove in D2, we all care about the environment and our trees and their preservation. Experts point to the weaknesses of the city's tree ordinances and poor enforcement practices as causes of the threat to the tree canopy. Others point to property rights as the priority interest of the city. What are your views on this subject? And that is a question directed to Mr. Goggins.
You're going to have to repeat that for me. My CI ended about 20 minutes ago.
No, it's fine. So if I say you're in District 2 and we're going to talk about trees, does that give you enough to go on that?
We talk about trees?
Yes.
Okay. Well, certainly, we see more and more diminishing green space. I mean, I live in Brickell, and, as time passes, you look at the horizon, you see more and more cranes, more development, less and less clear visible views of some of the beautiful landscape that we have. I mean, it just seems to be diminished with every single quarter that passes. We're out walking the dog, taking bicycles. Clearly, I understand I'm a real free market individual, but I think there has to be a level of control. There has to be some logic that goes into this. You talked about affordability. We don't have a housing problem. We have an affordability gap. The people that live in these downtown sections can't afford to live there. The three major sectors we have here are healthcare, we have construction, and we also have retail. Most of these positions don't pay enough to let these people afford $3,000 and $4,000 a month rent. So you see these developments going up and up and up. I think years ago, Galen Greenspan had a comment, he said irrational exuberance, and I think that's what we're seeing in the housing market here. I think we're just developing and developing and developing. I don't see any corrections, but the green space, we've got to do something. You go to Europe, you see dedicated spaces, dedicated fountains, dedicated areas where you can sit, you can enjoy some of this views that we have. What can I say?
Let me press you for 1 second, because and I mean this in a good way, but as a Brickell resident who says he's a free market person, address just a little bit more about environmental enforcement of what's already in place.
Yeah, regarding environmental enforcement?
Yes. And when you come from Brickell to the Grove, you notice a small difference. And so part of that is we're trying to keep a few things around here, but a lot of people are concerned about the lack of enforcement and that it's trickling away. If you are coming in as a commissioner, is that further enhancing that enforcement or driving enforcement? Is that going to be part of one of the things that you'll be focusing on?
Yeah, some of the enhanced enforcement, high visibility enforcement, I think that, we've all journeyed through various parts of the country, and there'll be an area that is known for high visibility enforcement. Word gets out rather quickly. It doesn't take too long. I mean, you essentially create an area where everyone is known to be pulled over, and you're enforcing whether it's traffic, aggressive driving, anything that lawn care, what have you. Absolutely.
Penultimate question of this round is: the city of Miami is famously the target of lawsuits in response to the actions of the city commission. Lawsuits that create liabilities and exposure for the city's taxpayers. What is your experience and familiarity with the law, with the city charter, with the ordinances to ensure that outside of simply the corruption question, that you act appropriately and within the confines of the law to not expose the taxpayers to any further litigation, hopefully? This is for Lorenzo Palomares.
I couldn't have a better question. Thank you very much. On my first commission meeting, I will file a motion to remove the liability protection of every commissioner that gets out of his legislative powers and sentence you to liability. Well, if you ever practice law, and I know that there's some of us here, it's qualified immunity. And my motion will be not to pay a dime for any defense of any commissioner for acts outside of their legislative branch, and only upon a finding of the court that the course and conduct of the commissioner was within his or her judicial act. And that's how you get around it. And by the way, I'm glad you asked me. There is one commissioner who has endorsed some of them, who has 57 lawsuits since 1983, and I've counted them today.
You're gonna put Ben Cuny out of business.
Okay, Mario, where are you? Yeah. But this time we knew where the microphone was going, right? I'm glad this question is coming to you, because I think your background, professional background, current professional background is interesting, and you might have a nuanced view on this too. But the question is pretty straightforward, broad-reaching. What do you see as the key determinants of the way Miami will look 20 years from now? As a commissioner, describe your specific ability to influence that future.
I want to see the people really doing what they love to do and happy in our community. And I think that some things 20 years from now don't have to change. They're just as beautiful today as they will be tomorrow. But my focus is the homeless, and I drive that home every time, because I believe that by reducing the amount of homelessness, clearing up our streets, we can reprogram these people, we could redirect these people into working environments where they're self-sufficient, they're contributing to the economy. I've seen people under the bridges with doctorate degrees and very prepared people from other countries. We could tap into that resource when we say there's a brain drain. We have a lot of resources right here. We don't have to find people from other sources. They can come here. I mean, they're already here. They're coming through the borders. We need to really do something. So I see Miami improving in that respect the most. And I'll learn from you to tell me how you want to see the future, because I'm here to learn from you as well. You know, I see our city. I grew up here all my life. There's some things that are beautiful just the way they are, and other things need to be improved, and we'll talk about it and address that. But I think people are the main resource that we need to tap into, and I'm here to listen to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to all the participants. We're going to give you just a quick break here if anyone wants some water or anything else like that as we go to this. And then we're going to, just to remind everyone here, the next step here will be a very quick question that'll have sort of a 5-minute window for everyone to discuss. Maybe we'll just go in order. Actually, we'll reverse it around this time. Would you mind starting? And maybe the microphone could come over here. And then remember, after this, then we'll all get the flashcards. We'll go to the yes/no lightning round, which Billy is prepared from. 1 minute. For your, yeah. That's going to be interesting. Okay. And then we'll do the closing statement. So what you don't get a chance to say now, and not with your flashcards, just make certain mental note for what you'll be able to do for your final statement. All right. So it's been mentioned that I'm fairly new around here. It's also fairly clear to everyone that let's face it, you're only going to be in office after this election for a short period of time. You'll be walking into a collection of strong personalities who are already working hard to achieve their goals, and it's a short period of time for you to be able to make your own impact. Would you please speak 1 minute per as to how the people who vote for you will be confident that you'll be able to make the most of your time in this stub period before you've all said in print that you want to run for election in the formal election later in the fall. But how do we know that you will have impact and a seat at the table and the ability to drive things effectively during this short period of time, eventually while you're also thinking about running for re-election?
Great question again. I love that one, actually. I think that's my favorite. I'm going to keep that one. And the reason I say that is everyone knows me as the president of the DNA, and I had to bridge gaps between the county commissioner, where there was zero relationship, at least in our part of the district. We took on one challenge, and that challenge was, everyone's familiar with Parcel B behind the old arena, right? I was told by somebody who's in this audience that I will not mention, you take that task, they're going to chop you off at the legs. I said, okay, great. That's 25 years ago. They made a promise. They need to deliver on that. We've been having high-level conversations currently with the county to tackle that issue, and we're still having that. Now remember, I said I'm from downtown, but I'm not from downtown. I'm from the district, and I've been able to champion that bridge in reaching out to the county. We also turn around and reach out to the other commissioners in establishing relationships with the park. Right? So that is a gap that we had to deal with in terms of the chronic homeless that have been camping in the parks, that we've turned around and committed that with the city. So bridging the gaps.
I've already worked with everyone at the city, and I continue to have a good relationship with Commissioner Hardiman, who is now County Commissioner. I have already worked with Christine King, who has replaced Commissioner Hardiman. I have a good working relationship with everyone in some capacity or another. There's one or two that are a little bit more difficult, but we still seem to be able to work on issues that are near and dear to my heart. And I also have relationship with some of the other county commissioners. And I think that it's important that we all get together and bring things to the table, and we need to work together with the citizens, because you all have the least say-so. We have had the least say-so in what's going on. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with my colleagues that we should have more town hall meetings so we can get together and really focus on our priorities, because everybody's opinion is important in District 2. And everyone has needs that need to be looked at and taken care of, not just been told, but actually to see results. I always want to focus on where the homeless are concerned. We have in our community now up to 7,500 homeless, and we only have 1,500 beds in the homes now for the centers of the homeless, and this is totally uneven. So I would focus on that, but I think it's important for us to open dialogue, get to know one another better, understand our needs, everybody's needs, and what's best for District 2. Thank you.
So for the continuing speakers, for you
You're gonna have to give me
individually.
the shortened version of that one. I am so sorry.
No, that's right.
Please, yeah.
For you individually, how do we know that you will hit the ground running and have impact in the short period of time that you will be in office after this election?
Okay.
So not platitudes, you personally, why you?
Okay. A quick background. From an academic standpoint, I've got degrees in criminal justice, business. I have an MBA in finance. I'm used to working with very large budgets, international budgets, large staffs, international staffs. As you can imagine, in the corporate world, you're used to working in large administrative committees. I mean, lots of personalities, lots of different agendas, especially in the corporate world. It's important that you gather around a simple objective. I mean, I think everyone wants to improve and do better for the constituents in the district. Everybody may have different ways of getting there, but I've proven through the years the ability to work with all types of individuals, cultural, international. I certainly have the academic background to do that, and I have every confidence I can work with very difficult personalities.
So I've been described as the surprise candidate because I looked at my schedule and I saw that this is the right opportunity. January 13th, I have been working exactly on what we need in this district to commence the work immediately. Have I enacted legislation? Yes, I have. Have I worked with our departments and navigate procurement, building, permit, OCI, public works? I have been doing it. And if you're looking for that candidate that could essentially will not need any on-the-job training and you could test me for the next few months, I ask that you give me the opportunity because that's what I've been doing internally in my time at the city. So if I'm given the opportunity, I have the knowledge, I've worked, I have stand up, and I have essentially presented the cases on the dais. I've done it. The record speaks for itself. You just need to look at commission, and I'm there. So I'm your guy, give me the chance, and I have the expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the time. Thank you for being here. I am your solutions candidate. I don't need any on-the-job training. I am the vice chairman of the board of the Construction Trades Qualifying Board for Miami-Dade. And the same way we did it at the board and we took the licenses of the people that were taking money away from the homeowners, we're gonna do it here again. I already removed and resolved several issues of flooding in Miami Beach, and I'll do the same in Brickell. And part of it is Miami, for the last 80, the lawsuits of that commissioner since 83, they've received $3.9 billion in impact fees that they squandered someplace. And it didn't go to make sure that the water drained. And we have to keep our communities what they are. The Grove, it's a jewel, it cannot be touched. As an environmentalist, I will not remove a tree. West Coconut Grove needs its own addressing issues. Vote for me, and thank you for your time.
So we have half a year until somebody has been elected, until the next election. So it means that this half a year, the one that being elected need to prove himself in order to be elected again. So we need to work hard for that. So as soon as I'm starting, I need to do a plan of what I'm doing in the next half a year to fulfill this seat in the maximum order and the maximum positive way in order for me to prove myself to be elected again. This is the first. The second, we can digitalize, we can do a website to accessible people to approach me and approach us in a way already to put ideas to see what we can do in this half a year already until the next election, because we don't have a lot of time for that. We can start from day zero and have all the answers. Beside of meetings and halls that taking time and everything in Miami taking time, we can do things that are innovative and faster than what we can do because we have half a year.
So I've already started, and I've already started contacting the media. I started about 2 years ago. I've also started contacting multiple consultants, traffic engineers, to ask why the best traffic engineers have not been brought into our county and our city. I've met with Eileen Higgins, our commissioner, regarding garbage, medians, other things that are not being taken care of, where the city points fingers at the county and the county points fingers at the city. So I've already defined what the city owns, what the county owns, and on day one, I'll hit the ground running, actually making motions and getting started so that we can preserve some of our buildings that are here, preserve our tree canopies, and the important things that we cannot get back if we allow developers to continue to rape our land.
Some of you know that I've been doing this a long, long time. And I think one of the realities is there's very few candidates that can hit the ground running. There's really only 6 or 7 meetings that we're going to be dealing with before the election. And really the biggest item that we're going to have is the budget. A lot of the legislation is already in place and ready to be voted on. It's just waiting for us to be put in place, whoever is chosen in District 2. But I think one of the keys in all of these years that I've been doing this, and not as a commissioner or a candidate, but really just working behind the scenes, you generate and you get relationships with people in the county, in the state, in the city level, and maybe it's not in the commission level, but it's on the staff level. The other day I got a note saying, hey, what's going on with Kennedy Park? And I answered the question because I was able to do just one phone call and I got the answer. So I think it's really about that relationship, that you can accomplish things in a way that just happens. Thank you.
When I become your commissioner, I'm going to be there sitting 9 months. 9 months, and then I need to make sure that I get reelected. 9 months is what a baby takes to grow in your belly. We can be here telling our constituents and telling you as a community that we're going to solve every issue, but that's not a reality. Why don't I, as a commissioner, take baby steps to first and foremost listen to you guys, and I've already did, preserve our historic sites, preserve our green spaces and enhance them, and make sure that we feel secure in our community. I think those 3 items can be my baby agenda to make sure that I get reelected in November and that I can continue in this role.
I personally would not be standing up here if I only planned on having the job for 7 months. I do see it as a 8 to 9 year plan. We really need to step up and be accountable for everything that's going on. We need to actually start doing things to mitigate the environmental crisis. For example, the building of mangroves and where's all the $192 million in flooding money and storm draining? We need someone who's just going to say, screw you, you can't treat our people like this anymore. You can't go and try to make our beach a homeless encampment. Hey, you can't go there and just shut down a restaurant. You can't just go around imposing your agenda on other businesses and districts, because this city survives on its people, and if you take the things away from them that they love, they will leave it and people will no longer love it.
Thank you. So again, specific as to me, I have the experience, and there's 2 words, and I'll bring it up again in my closing. It's consensus and experience. I have always been a consensus builder. I worked on the Public Health Trust. It was a $4 billion budget. I have the experience to deal with these issues. They elected me to be the treasurer because of my financial background and my experience. I was elected to the Grove Council. The council elected me to be the chairman because, again, I have the consensus and the ability to work with people. On the bench, we dealt with issues all the time where we affected people's lives. I've been in office. I understand this community. I have the experience. I have the relationships with our mayor, with our commission, with our county commission. People view that as good, people view that as bad. We can't do this alone. The difference that relates specifically to me is I've been in public office, I've been in this community. I have the relationships and the experience to continue with a consensus to get work done in our community. Thank you.
Okay, so for over 2 years, I have been sitting at City Hall in specific meetings. I've been studying the personalities. I know what's been coming up on the agendas. I have already a working relationship with our police department. I already have been going to our parks. I already have a relationship with Ken's office. And I've already promised them that I'm going in there with the top 10 lists that I already know of, and I'm cutting that list down. I'm a proactive person. I do not want to sit there at City Hall and get nothing done. Hurricane season and preparedness will only start a few months after I begin. So being a proactive person and knowing that hurricane season is coming, I'm not going to have a deficit of pumps and other things that we are going to need to protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, get your cell phones ready. It's time for the lightning round. Oh, we're not doing... We are. We will do closing statement, yeah. A silent cheer for Mel Meinhardt, his beautiful artwork here. And I apologize in advance to all the lawyers on the stage that you're going to have to commit yourself to short answers here in this lightning round. I'm going to ask as many questions as I possibly can. I'll give you no more than 5 seconds. This is why you need to have your cell phones ready to see what everybody says, because we're going to try to move pretty quickly through all of these, and we'll be alternating between biography questions and policy questions. You may very well learn more now about these candidates than you have all along. Are you ready? Yes, just yes, or just hold it up, please. Yes or no. Obviously, if you want to abstain, I do not recall, Your Honor. You can just keep it down. Have you ever spoken at a city commission meeting more than one time in your life? Have you ever spoken at a city commission meeting more than once in your life? Have you ever attended either a Historic and Environmental Preservation Board or Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board meeting in the last 4 years? Do you have any relatives employed by the city or its contractors? Have you ever been arrested? Follow-up, have you ever been convicted? Have you ever been convicted? Do you think we need to commit more money to the police budget? Do we need to commit more money to the police budget? Do you have at least a bachelor's degree? At least a bachelor's degree. Have you ever filed for bankruptcy? Bankruptcy is the question. Do you support the county's Coconut Grove Playhouse plan? Have you ever been the manager of a business with more than 5 direct reports? Direct report employees that report directly to you. At least 5. Would you have voted, if you were commissioner at the time, to approve the new district map that is currently being challenged by the ACLU? Would you have voted for the Mel Reese Inter-Miami real estate deal as it existed when approved last April, as is? Would you have voted for the Mel Reese deal last April as it was presented to the commission on that night? Do you agree with Mayor Suarez that the Inter-Miami real estate contract is, quote, the best sports deal in the history of this country, end quote? He was super serious, bro. Do you support a homeless encampment on Virginia Key? would you have voted to terminate Police Chief Art Acevedo? Would you have voted to terminate Police Chief Art Acevedo at that meeting? Have you received a donation to your campaign from the mayor, a sitting commissioner, or any of their political committees, so indirectly from any of them, to your campaign? Not yet. You're all hoping to. That's fair. Do you? Would you? Would fair, Mel? Mel with the follow-up. Would you accept a donation to your campaign from the mayor, a sitting commissioner, or any of their political committees? Come on now. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. How many of these have you sat out, Zilber? Would you support... you're pleading the fifth to all of them, dude? All right. Would you support... Would you support... I don't know. How many did he say that? All right. Would you support a charter amendment to prevent the mayor from having outside employment? Not just this mayor, but any mayor. Would you support a charter amendment to prevent the mayor from having outside employment? Would you support a charter amendment to add additional districts and commissioners to better represent our ever-growing community? Would you support a charter amendment to ensure all city elections are held on even years to conform them and maximize voter turnout? Do you think the previous D2 City Commissioner, Ken Russell, did a good job? Final question. This is not a yes or no, but we'll start here and go around. Just yell out a number. How many years or months consecutively have you currently lived in District 2? So currently, I understand if you moved away, but current consecutive years that you have lived here in the district.
9 years total.
9, 18, 30, 7, 11, 9, 2, 4 years, 6 months, 30, 22, 5, 35, 4. That concludes the lightning round. Thank you guys so much. Now we will once again start from. We're starting from this side, or does it? We'll start at that end, June. We are going to have 30 seconds. 30 seconds for your closing statements for each of you, starting with you, and working our way around clockwise.
Is this on? Okay. 30 seconds. That's tough. All right. My name is June Savage, and I feel I am the people's candidate. I am your voice, and I will be having an open door policy that Xavier Suarez taught me. I would like to also let you know, someone sent this to me with a donation, and it says, Save the Grove.
So again, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to say it again, consensus and experience. I don't run away from the fact that I have commissioners and the mayor and others supporting me because they know I'm ready to do the job day one. And we need to work together to get what we need here in this district. We have you as voters and constituents. We have business owners as voters and as constituents. We need to all come together. Again, I have the experience to start day one to make this a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Would you rather have someone that knocks on your doors or sends you robocalls? Because I know I've been knocking on doors trying to get everyone's attention and trying to hear everyone's issues and not just making them up based on things I hear on the internet. I jumped into this campaign because I really believe this city needs a lot of change, and that change includes standing up to a lot of people that people are afraid to stand up to. Thank you. My name is Max Martinez, maxformia.com.
As a former news investigative reporter and political scientist, I know that I have what it takes to be your voice in the city of Miami. I'm a working mom of three children, and I am extremely honored to be able not only to address you, but to make sure that we get an honest person, a renewal in our commission. Thank you, and for those who don't remember, SabinaCovo.com, by the way, Max.
One of the questions I was asked was, if you lose, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You know, if you live here in Coconut Grove, that when I lost in 15, I lost in 19. I didn't go away. I was there with you when we were fighting the redistricting. I was there with you when we were doing the NCD. Thank you.
My name is Christy Tasker, and I'm not going away either, and I'm probably your only candidate to actually stand up to the politicians who won't take any money. The only donations I will take are from the people. You can go to ChristyTasker4Miami.com, and that's ChristiTaskerfor Miami.com.
Okay, so 2 days ago I had my 40th birthday. For me, it's all my life I'm experienced for that. From the moment that I came to the US, this is my American dream, to represent democracy, and I can involve my innovation, my truth, and my experience for the residents.
Thank you once again. Lorenzo Palomares, I am the solution candidate. I promise you on the first meeting, we will have cheaper housing. I intend to divorce ourselves and the city from the people in Tallahassee and create our own insurance fund to insure ourselves here and not have to go to Tallahassee.
Eddie Leal, I will immediately be able to start to work. I have been doing it for the last few years by introducing legislation, working hard to push forward. We need someone to hit the ground running, is not afraid, has already articulated legislation. I'm ready to start. Give me the chance. I'm ready, and I've already served you for years here. Thank you. And to finish, I will not be going away. This is my house. This is my home. This is where I grew up, and this is where my family we call home. Thank you.
As you can tell, I am not a politician in any sense of the word. My commitment to serve as your next commissioner is solely based on civic responsibility. This is not a career path for me. My promise to you is if I am given the opportunity to serve you, I'll be here as long as you need me. You won't see me running for any other office in any other district, no political aspirations beyond serving the community here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mario Vuksanovic, and my principle in life is very simple. God, family, and country. I want you to have my phone number. It's 305-803-8259. As your commissioner of District 2, you can call me 24/7. I'll be there. I'll talk to you personally. We'll work together. I'm going to surround myself with a great team. Me and you will make a great team. Thank you.
I think at least 3/4 or more of the people in this room know who I am. I do whatever it takes. I'm not going anywhere, and I don't make a dime here in Miami. I work for free, and I will continue to work for free. I'm just here to do the job and make sure things get done. Thank you.
First of all, thank you to the Women's Club for having us here tonight. It's very simple. I've already done on-the-job training with the advocacy that I've done. The results have proven themselves not only for the district, but for the community in general. I hope to have your support and vote as we move further in this process. VoteJamesTorres.com. Thank you.
Folks, let's thank our citizens, our neighbors. Our time is up. I promised you we're stopping the Zoom now. And please, you can mingle with your folks here. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Take what you've learned, bring it to your neighbors, and God bless.